Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Husqvarna 390 chainsaw. Customer just said, look it over. He's got a big tree job coming up. I don't think he uses this saw a lot, although it looks like it does get used. The request was just to look it over, make sure it's ready to go. So looking in the fuel tank, nothing to write home about there. Fuel smelled alright. I didn't see any water in the bottom of the tank. We might revisit that. But I like to, get a look inside the cylinder before I start replacing any other parts. So there's some clips that hold this air filter cover on. And then there's the 3 screws. Well, there's supposed to be 3 screws that hold the cylinder cover on. You see I loosened up the other screws for the cylinder cover. But we got to get this spark plug out anyway and look inside that cylinder. So the plug is whatever, it's fine. The cylinder, clean, shiny, no scoring. So it's going to get a fresh spark plug, gapped at 0.5 millimeter. EPMR 7A. What are we doing now? We're going to pull the starter off. That one screw was a little different style than the other ones. And it's stripped, but it does have the cross tip screwdriver, style that we can get in there, and not with that screwdriver though. Not with the 4 millimeter Allen, that just slips in there.
Wonderful.
You always got to have that one nice bigger screwdriver, and this is mine. It's got a long reach and a big handle, but it's not a ginormous end on it, so you can still use it on these smaller screws. And it looks like it did a good job for us. So what are we finding? A lot of schmutz. Here's our air conductor, as Husky calls it. It's a black plastic shroud here. More schmutz. I want to take the cylinder cover off, but you got to take the air filter off. And I wasn't taking the air filter off because of how much dirt was in there. But we'll take this filter out of the way, get the cylinder cover off, and then put the filter right back on. Then I can take this thing outside, and we got a hose hanging out there, compressed air, and I'll blow this thing off and clean it up. It's an older saw. Looks like it's done some work. Okay, we got everything cleaned back up, putting it back together. Not seen in this video, whether I did it or not, I can't say, I don't remember. But while that starter was off, the air gap should have been checked on the ignition module. I'm sure I did it. So now we're just routing our kill switch wire. And even though it seems like a minor thing, it's pretty important to take your time and make sure that wire is properly routed. Because if it comes loose, where do you think it's going to go? I mean, it'll get sucked into that fan, and they won't be able to shut the saw off. There we go. We got our starter in place. We'll run down the 3 screws that fit this bit. I think they're Phillips head. And that last one is 4mm with the cross tip on it also. So we'll just crank that back down with the big screwdriver. Crank. Crank. It's a long-winded thing, ain't it? Here we go. Nice and tight. No one will ever get it off of there again. Now we're thinking, apparently. Or someone's talking to us. Kind of hard to say sometimes. Now we're going back and revisiting the fuel tank. So we get our handy dandy, you can tell this is an old video because the tool I'm going to use to fish that filter out, that thing disappeared months ago. That tool right there. It's just a piece of welding rod that I knocked the flux off of it and then push some fuel line over the end of it. So here's our fuel filter. This is a 591-375-401. And we forgot something again. You know, my mind is probably not on this project. I'm probably thinking about going for a bike ride or something like that. We want to pressure test that fuel line. Pump it up to 10 pounds. It holds. I'm happy. So I know that the carb's tight and there's no hole in the fuel line. Thinking again. Off comes the air filter. Not really sure what's going on here. I guess it's going to be a surprise to both of us. Just cleaning more schmutz off the carburetor. Thinking again. What the heck? Revisiting the spark plug. Never had tightened it down. It's torqued down now though. Alright, we're going to put some fuel in here. I was calling it go-go juice and then someone commented and said I should call it motion lotion. And that just didn't feel right, so I'm not going to call it anything anymore except fuel. We check our oil. Looks like we got bar oil. So I mean that's about it. We're going to look at the clutch side here yet. We're going to make sure it's oiling. Look at the rim drive. We could pull the clutch off or the drum off and lube the needle bearing for the drum, but I don't think I show that in this video. So that's all I'm going to have for you in the Husky 390 once over. Thanks for watching. Later. Yep, she's oiling. Rim drive looks good. We gotta replace that air nozzle. It's cracked. I don't know why I didn't see it when I had the starter off.